My name is John E. Cebak, and I was a combat medic in the Al-Anbar province of Iraq from 2005 to 2006. I was part of an armor infantry unit. Our mission was to maintain the supply route between Ramadi and Fallujah, an MSR, main supply route, and those types of blasts were daily occurrences. Myself being a part of a 7-man medical team for a company of people, I saw maybe some 400 casualties. And blasts like that were every day. All of the people that I know and most of my friends went through something to that effect. But not all injuries are from blast, unfortunately. In fact, in another situation, I was providing support as a part of a 3-man medical crew because I was with an armor infantry unit, armor meaning tanks, infantry that was mechanized, so they had Bradley fighting vehicles, armored vehicles. Tanks went into this town, they cordoned off an area. The infantry went in, they dismounted, the good guys got the bad guys, and on exfiltration, at the time I made the call, I told our driver, I was 19 years old and I was the track commander, to pivot steer our 13-ton tracked vehicle, engage one track forward and the other track in reverse, and the armored vehicle will pivot in place. In doing so, the torsion of the tracks broke apart the road and the vehicle flipped end over end into a ravine. I was partially flung from the vehicle, I lost my helmet, and I hit my head multiple times in the breech of the vehicle. And when the vehicle stopped flipping, it was inverted, and I was partially flung from it and drowning. I remember that the shield that was around me, it was just wet, and I kept pushing myself up, trying to push myself into the hull of the vehicle. And I fought as long as I could and held my breath as long as I could. But I was dazed and confused. I was in pain. And at a certain point, I made the decision that I just need to breathe. So when I did, I started choking, and I started choking on air. For whatever reason, in the position I had turned myself in, there was a small pocket of air that afforded me enough opportunity for the guy in the back of the vehicle to get his wits about him and pull me out of the breach back into the hull. Now, it was a serious mechanism of injury, and my buddy's helmet was crushed in on one side, and my ceramic armor in my chest plate was also broken. And you can see here, the really rough part is that, so right at the Red Cross, you can see how the vehicle was submerged in the ravine. Later, we found out that it was actually a sewage pit built to house the local sewage. The vehicle actually caught the ground as it was sliding in, so it didn't submerge completely. And you can see the cupola up at the top where it's kind of dark. It's where it was about halfway submerged in. And then when the vehicle was upside down, the oil and wreckage of everything inside. And right after, I was pulled back into the hull of the vehicle. We ended up having to stay in there for over an hour until another tank was able to position itself to pull ours, roll it up just enough to allow us to get out. A nearby patrol Iraqi army came to help us out, and you can see the date stamps at 8/27/05, 2247 is right after the event, and at 8/28/2005 at 10 in the morning, the vehicle had already been recovered and I was cleaning it. There were so few of us that it would have completely destroyed our operations tempo. we didn't have enough manpower to like, oh, you got your bell rung. Those words were actually said. And so I just moved directly back into doing my job. And I forced compliance of my own faculties to the mission, but I was immediately not the same. Nightmares happened the night after. I was having problems with concentrating, wasn't able to focus. And I felt like I just forced myself to comply with whatever I needed to do, but I was a different person. And when I came home, everything was fine for about 2 weeks. And then everything started to fall apart again, because I was operating now on a construct that I wasn't used to without the faculties that I had previously. So I couldn't think, I felt like I was living in this fog, and I was having problems with my attention. I had poor balance and astigmatism and a retinal detachment. And I felt the sequelae of PTSD started to take over as well. And I started to fail. I started to fail out of school. I was failing my relationships. I didn't have any family except for my brother. I couldn't connect to anyone. And I started to take matters into my own hands. I would self-medicate, drugs and alcohol. And for a long time, I was basically just destroying my life. Until one day, my brother got all the liquor bottles in the house and all the paraphernalia, put it in the kitchen, and was like, you're dying. And he gave me the incentive that I did need to seek help. So I became aggressive in my treatment with the VA. I started taking the medicine, everything from stimulants to beta blockers to antidepressants, a large gambit of things just to get me through. I did one-on-one therapy, group therapy, CBT, CPT, and over the course of years, I started to recover in these little areas of my life as I focused on them. And my university gave me accommodations for testing, and then I started to become competitive again. And so I finished undergrad. I did 2 bachelor's degrees, and then I moved into graduate school, and I completed a PhD in traumatic brain injury under Ed Hall, which some of you know, at the University of Kentucky. And learning about the pathophysiological principles that were happening inside of me and had happened inside of me was extremely humbling, but also satisfying. But in the course of that work, I realized that there really is a gap between preclinical work and clinical work. And so I decided to go to medical school. So now I'm a 4th-year medical student looking for a neurology residency. I'll say that again. You guys want to write my name down? I got cards. I've been told that I am high functioning, and that's true, and I appreciate that. But I'm not the same person that I was. I have trouble finding words. I have trouble being able to recite long scripts such as this one. And I think what allowed me to compensate for those things were like little things that I did to accommodate myself. I borrowed principles from like my psychotherapy and tried to use that in other areas, because there is no treatment for traumatic brain injury, and I received no treatment for traumatic brain injury. But not everyone is like me, and some of my friends and my brother, who's also an Afghanistan veteran, he is also going through some issues. Some of my closest friends are still fighting, and some of them have given up with suicide. And I ask that we could just observe a moment of silence, not just for those that did fall, but those that are still falling. Thank you.